Hello and welcome to another one of my hand range analysis. In this particular hand, we are playing 2NL 6 max. We are sitting under the gun with the ace king of hearts. First thing we should always do is look at the chip stacks. We have an average stack, a large stack. We are sitting with an average stack, and a very large stack. So being under the gun, we're first to act. Usually I like to raise 3 to 3.5 big blinds. The reason is that I find at least at 2NL, if I raise smaller than that, I end up in a multi-way pot, or worse, I get re-raised. In this particular case, I do indeed raise 3.5 big blinds, one caller, and everybody else folds. So we go to the program called Flopzilla Pro. If you're not familiar with this, I highly recommend you buy it. It is very helpful in analyzing your hands. If you're not familiar with it, there are lots of great videos out there on YouTube that explain it. It is beyond the scope of this video to go into depth about it. But in this particular situation, I give myself ace king, and I give the opponent a range roughly 37%. This I find is the typical range of most of these players on 2NL. You may agree or disagree, but you have to assign something, so this is what I assigned him. Against this range, we are a 67% favorite to win, so we should win 2/3 of the time with our ace king of hearts. So flop is very nice to us. It's 6-8 ace, so we have top pair with the king kicker, no flush draw. So in this situation, well, what should we do? Well, let's first enter it. So we have 6 of spades, 8 of clubs, ace of diamonds. So make sure this is red. Before any action, we are now an 85% favorite to win. So obviously we should bet. How much to bet? Usually when there is an ace on here, I usually recommend, or at least for me, I bet a quarter of the pot, maybe a third of the pot. The reason, whether I have an ace or not, the reason why is if he either has an ace or he doesn't have an ace. If he has an ace, he will call no matter what size bet. If he doesn't have an ace, he will typically call a third size pot just to see one more flop. So in this particular situation, I bet a little more than I usually do, but I bet, almost half pot. And villain calls. Well, what would villain call? So we come over here back to Flopzilla. I usually like to click this red, and I click red anything that would play this way that has me beat. So would he do this with a straight? Well, yes. Most players at this point would slow play a straight. As it is, there's no straights possible. What about a set? What if he had 9-9 or 6-6? Players at 2NL love to slow play, so yes, he would slow play a set. 2 pair, ace-9, ace-6. Once again, they love to slow play, so yes, he would just call with that. What about top pair? Well, most players at this level love to call with top pair, so we'll go ahead and give that a red as well. So now we're going to switch to green. What about a pair like pocket tens? Would he call pocket tens? Yes, they hate folding one pair, and he'd call for at least one street. What about nines? Once again, they hate folding a pair, so he'd call for at least one street. What about second pair like eights or sevens? Yeah, he would call for at least one street. Bottom pair. Once again, they hate folding pairs, so yes. Pair less than the board. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say he'd call for one street. No made hand, I think he would fold. What about 6, 7, 8, 9? Yes, he would. There are none of those. 2-door back street? No. Alright, so I think this is a good representation of what he would do in this situation. So we click this to turn green, And if you'll see, we're 78% favorite to win, and we're beating 63% of his range. So all in all, we're looking good. Jack of Spades, not a great card, not a horrible card. So let's go back and enter the Jack of Spades. We make sure this is red. Right now we're winning 80% of the time, so we're looking good. At this point, we should bet. How much to bet? Well, obviously he called our flop bet, so he likes his hand. Either he has a pair of aces, he has maybe a draw, straight draw, pair of eights, maybe a pair of sixes. But anyhow, he liked his hand enough to call, so we should bet at least half pot. So in this particular situation, we bet 2/3. Not horrible, but I'm afraid if we get too big of a bet, we're gonna get our sixes to fold or our eights to fold. And villain, oh, he raises. That's not what we were expecting. Well, what would he check raise with? Now, at 2 and L, people do not usually check raise bluff. That means he likes his hand, and he likes his hand a lot. Now, unfortunately, this is our HUD. If you're not familiar with HUDs, be sure and Google it. Unfortunately, once again, it's beyond the scope of this video to go into HUD data. But since this number here is how many hands we have seen, we've only seen 4 hands, so we don't have a lot of information on this guy. So what would he check raise with? Well, once again, we click on red, things that he would check raise with that has his beat. Well, if he had a straight, he would do that. If he had a set, he would do that. Once again, there's 2 spade cards, so he might be afraid of us backdooring a flush. 2 pair, definitely. What about top pair? What if he was scared? Well, I think he would do that, but then again, we're going to click this to green because any top pair he has, we've got beat. What about the weak pair? I don't think he would do that anymore with weak pairs. I think I've shown strength, 2 streets. I think he would fold. Flush draw. Well, I can see him doing that with a flush draw. He's trying to take the pot down right now. 7, 8. 6, 7, 8, 9. Maybe he would do that as a semi-bluff. And there aren't any of those, so let's just go ahead and click those. So, based on that, we're down to 66% favorite. We're still beating nearly 72% of his range, so we're not horrible, but I don't feel good about this anymore. I mean, if he didn't do top pair, we're losing. The question is whether or not he would do that with the top pair. I think he would, just trying to take the pot down now. So I call. Oh, another spade. 4 spades. That is not a good card for us. So make sure this is red. Based on that, we only have 50% chance to win. That is before any action. Let's see what villain does. Well, I check. I don't think that's a bad move. Actually, I think in hindsight, a small bet, 20% maybe 20, 25 big blinds would have been better. That way I could better define where I am. If I'm raised, I can get away from it. Yeah, I don't like that check now. So what does villain do? Villain bets slightly below half pot. Well, what would villain do that with? once again, we mark red. There are no roll flush, straight flushes. Would you do that with the flush? Yes, he wants to get paid. There are no straights. What about a set? I don't think he would do that with a set. I think he would be happy to check and see if its set is good, especially with a flush draw out there. Two pair, once again, I don't think he would do that unless... No, I don't think he would do that. Top pair, no, check and fold. So, based on that, we're losing to 100% of his... Well, alright, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. What would he do? Would he do that on a bluff? If he absolutely has nothing, maybe. Well, even if he did that on a bluff, 18-19% of his hands, we're still losing. The only thing we can beat is a bluff. We're losing to flushes, we're losing to two pairs, we're losing to sets, we're even losing to a weird 5-7 straight. Best thing to do is fold. Unfortunately, we call and we get the bad news. I don't mind my play all the way up into the river. I think the river, that was a horrible call. Anyhow, does this play make sense? He slow played sets, slow played. Yeah, his betting makes all the sense in the world. So long story short, I did well up into the river. Was 8-8 in our ranges. Yeah, I'm not sure why I didn't check this, but obviously he would do that with set. So yes, for some reason I don't have 8-8 in our range. Long story short, it doesn't matter. I played everything well up into the river. Once again, I am an amateur. If you agree or disagree, please leave constructive comments down below, and I appreciate you for watching this video.